Hi friends, this is Tatiana and I am the Slow Crafter, and in this video I'm going to show you what I made with the April 2019 paper pumpkin kit from Stampin' Up. So I made quite a few cards, so I'm going to divide them into 3 stacks here. So this first stack was made using the card bases that we got in the kit, and for this one I just cut out one of the cardstock panels we got. I fussy cut it and I added it to the card base, and then on top of that I layered the corrugated card piece that we got in the kit. And for these little circles, I love making these little circles. I take my Stampin' Blends markers and I just color them on vellum, and then I use my circle punch to punch them out. And I think they come out looking really cute. And I just have a quick tip here. These little adhesive dots that come in the paper pumpkin kit are really good for, well, I think they're good for adhering these vellum circles to your card, because I know a lot of times it's challenging to adhere vellum without the adhesive showing, and I mean you do see them, but especially when it's a polka dot, it doesn't bother you so much that there's a little transparent, like you can see this little circle under here. But I don't know, I think it works really well for those. So I'm going to save those from now on and use them for my vellum. Okay, with this card, I did the same thing. I colored on vellum with my Stampin' Blends and punched out some polka dots. And then I took my watercolor Stampin' Up pencils, and well, before I glued these down, I took my Stampin' Up pencils and I just colored a bit. Some of the circles I divided in two and did some coloring, and then some of them I just did a little squiggly, and then I put my polka dot vellum pieces on top of that. And then for the border, I just took this one, actually, I think it's the basic gray, and I used a ruler to create a border around the card, and then I also did sort of a squiggly line to make it look a little less formal, and I did a couple of hash marks or hashtags or whatever you call those on the side there too. For this one, I heat embossed the rose image onto cardstock and colored it with my pink Stampin' Blend marker, and it turned out okay, I guess. I just put it down here at the bottom, and I also stamped and embossed the leaves in white. And once again, I used this as a way to make a little frame around the card, and then I stamped the sentiment. Now for this card, I pulled out my circle dies, my stitch circle dies, and I just circle cut 3 of the elements that you got in the card kit, and I stamped a little sentiment there, and I think that one turned out really nice. Now for this one, I just used the card base, and then I added that corrugated piece again. But for a little bit of difference here, I heat embossed on, I don't know if you can see, yeah you can see, I heat embossed on vellum, and this time it turns out looking translucent. So that's the same marker used for that card and for this card, but it comes out being a different color depending on what media you're using. So this one is cardstock and this one's vellum. That's personal preference, I guess. And then for these little dots, I thought it needed something, so I took my black ink pad, smooshed it down on some packaging, sprayed it with water so that I created some wet ink for myself, and I took my water brush and dipped it in there, and then just kind of very lightly put dots on here. But you have to be careful because the corrugated cardboard, it's very difficult to make a circular dot because it tends to drip into the corrugation, if that's a word. So just be careful if you're going to use that technique. And then for the last one, I just cut out a frame from the card base and added one of those pieces that we got, stamped a sentiment, stamped the rose image onto regular cardstock, and then once again heat embossed vellum for the leaves. So that's what I made using the card bases that came in the kit. And then after I ran out of those, I made some Whisper White card bases for myself, and I started all over again. And this one I used, in my last video you may have noticed that I made a mistake and I cut my belly band that was supposed to be used to pretty up the plastic box. I cut it by mistake, so it wasn't long enough. So in this case, what I did was I cut some circles out of it, and then I backed it with one of those pieces that we got in the kit, just to create a little color, and everything matches, which is nice, because then this piece that I was supposed to attach to it, I ended up attaching to it, except that I attached it on a card instead of on the belly band. And I put the leaves behind there and made a quick sentiment, and I think it turned out nicely. Now for this one, this is just some simple stamping. It's just ink and paper, and that's it. And I took the rose image from the stamp set, and what I did was I created a mask. First of all, I stamped that image onto a piece of cardstock. So I stamped the yellow first, that's Daffodil Delight, and then I made a mask. So in case you don't know what a mask is, it's just a stamped image that you cut out, you fussy cut out, and then when you want to do your second, let me see if I can line this up properly. When you want to do your second bit of stamping, you put this down, and then you stamp again, so that when you remove the mask, it appears as though the second flower is hidden behind the first one. But I just want to point out here, don't do what I did. I cut my mask out of cardstock, and what you should do is cut it out of copy paper or out of a Post-it note, something thinner than cardstock, because what happens is when you go to put this down and stamp on top of it, I don't know if you can see here, but the image didn't come through here, and it didn't come through here. And that's because this was too thick. My stamp couldn't make it down to the paper. So if you're going to do this, make your mask out of something thinner. So then I masked it again, and I used Petal Pink. This is Poppy Parade, and that's Daffodil Delight. And then I used the little texture stamp in the kit to just make a border. I just stamped it about 1,000 times here, and I made a border. So that's simple stamping. Now this one, I just went to town with that rose stamp. I thought it was so beautiful that I couldn't stop myself from just stamping it. I just wanted to see what it would look like if it was stamped all over a card. And then I heat embossed the Happy Mother's Day sentiment. And I think it looks really nice, just like this. But I just wanted to show you, if you choose to color it, I was playing around. You know, this is the cardboard packet. It's one of the pieces that come in the kit. It's a piece of cardboard that they use to keep everything, you know, stable in the kit, I guess you could say. And I cut it in half, and I was going to make a little book out of this. So I was just playing around with this, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like colored. So here it is. This is just with the gray granite, and then this is the same gray granite, except that I used one of my watercolor pencils, and I think I used the Coral Cabana. You know what? It must have been a pink, actually. I don't remember which one I used. Melon Mom? No, it couldn't be that. I think it must have been Coral Cabana, because I think Melon Mambo is the only other pink in there. And then I used some green for the leaves, and I used my the blender pen to move the watercolor pencil ink around. And then I don't know if you can see, but I was playing around, so I wanted to see what some glossy accents would look like on the leaves, and it looked really nice. But I didn't end up going ahead with this project, but yeah, I just wanted to show you the difference between what it looks like uncolored and what it looks like colored. Okay, so for the next one, now this one I used I think these were meant to be used as labels to maybe put a sentiment in front of, but I ended up just using them all on one card. And I mean, I think it makes it look a little bit like a trellis. And I wanted to point out here that I went to a garage sale a few years ago, and the lady was a Stampin' Up! Person at some point in her life, and I bought this ink pad, and it's garden green, and I think this thing is really old, because you see this logo with the torn paper look here? I couldn't find this on the internet. Does anybody know when they made this logo? I'm just curious to know how old this ink pad is, because I know it's old, and yet look, it's stamped perfectly. The ink is still good, so I thought that was pretty impressive. But I didn't finish this card because one of my problems is that I am racked by indecision when I'm making choices in card making, and it drives me crazy. I drive myself crazy. And so I first of all, I thought I was going to use one of the labels that came with the kit, and I thought that looks really nice. It's just a really simple color scheme, just white and green. And so I was going to use this, and then I picked up one of the roses that I'd stamped, and I thought, oh, now that looks really nice. But then, because I'm crazy and racked by indecision, I went back and forth about 1,000 times. And then I thought, I had this idea. I thought, why don't I ask you what you think? Do you like this one better, or do you like this one better? And then I thought, that's great. Whatever people think is better, I'll just use. So if you could leave a comment and tell me which one you think looks better, I can finish this card and not be racked by indecision for the next 48 hours. Okay, and then stack 3, I ramped it up a bit, and I used some gold foil paper in behind the stamp panel, and I popped it up a bit. So I made a whole bunch of these because what I do is I actually sell my cards at craft fairs sometimes. And so when I get a card design that I really like, I try to make a few of them at once so that when I actually go to a craft fair, I don't have to get all stressed out about having to make a whole bunch of cards before I go. So I started with the Happy Mother's Day, and the only difference between these is where well, first of all, I changed the colors of the leaves to match the background paper. So I used mint macaron, petal pink, and Calypso coral. Is that what it's called? And I also changed the sentiment, and I changed where I stamped the sentiment. So here it's in the top right, obviously, top left, and then I went on to do some other variations. Here I put it in the middle. Here I put it in the middle again. Here I put it up here. And for these cards, I just changed it a little bit again. These ones are all stamped with, I think this is Sahara sand for the flowers. Yeah, that was Sahara sand. And then here I use the rock and roll technique where you stamp it in 2 different ink colors, and I like this one, I really do. And I put the sentiment on a tag. And then for this one, I did the same thing, except that I used my gold string. And this technique is so much harder than it looks, because trying to get that string into a circular, a perfect circle to put behind there and then get it behind there before you stick it down, it's a lot harder than it looks. So mine came out looking a little weird, but I still like it. But just be warned that if you're going to try this, it's not easy. It took me about 5 minutes to do this, and I don't even think it turned out great. So I'm going to have to practice with that one. And then, of course, there were the 3 cards that originally came with the kit. 1, 2, 3, and then I stamped the envelopes, as I showed you in the previous video. So, believe it or not, that's not all I made. I made a whole bunch more, but I'm going to put another video up. So there will be part 3 of this series, and I used, in part 3, I used the packaging. I used some of the packaging that comes with the kit. Don't throw out that packaging. And I'm not talking about this cardboard packaging. Don't throw that out either, but I used some of the other packaging to make some other cards, and I can't wait to show you that. So I'm going to make another video. I just didn't want this one to get too long, and I didn't want the other one to get too long either. So anyway, don't forget to subscribe to see the 3rd video, and thanks so much for watching.